this lobby, desperate for just a hint of love. Yeah, I just made it. It's great. What was it again?
Something about tonight. It felt like
Oh, I can't remember the time. Maybe.
kind of like that.
In the love. Welcome to the ZBHO Dojo. I hope you're ready to give some love to the CG gods and saints and archangels. First, let us bow to the Lord Frank Frazetta. Thank you, Frazetta. Saint Joseph. Saint Paul. Oh, excuse me, Saint Paul. Please don't strike me down. Saint Ryan. And the Archangel Raphael. Thank you very much for your continued inspiration and education and overall badassery. We are going to have an addition here to the wall very soon. If you've ever watched the stream before, which you should have by now, you'll know who that is already. But we'll get him up there soon. You just wait. So, today in the ZBHO Dojo, we have Princess. There you go, Leo. Leo knows what's up. We have Princess already yawning. She's already yawning, so she's gonna be asleep very, very soon. But today, whoa, what's going on with the desk? What's going on with the desk? Why is it moving? Jesus, what's going on with me? Oh, it's scary. Did you see that? So we're gonna go over leg anatomy today. We're also going to adjust the skeleton a little bit so that we can get the leg anatomy as anatomically correct as possible. We're going to start off adjusting the skeleton, then adjusting, and then start blocking in the leg, upper and lower, as well as the hip, and overall going over all the muscles like we usually do on these streams. So if you've learned anything on this stream, if you've ever had a good time on the stream, please make sure to let others know. And we're going to get started. Here we go. Alrighty. So this piece is sculpted by a student of mine over at the university, Elaine. She let us use her mesh and kind of break it down, get all that sculpting goodness. And let's see. Okay. So the main issue with this so far is that the skeleton is kind of broken a little bit. Let me get this transparency in here. I don't know where'd you put the femur? Where'd you put him? Oh, you put it over here. And then this one. Okay. So let's bring this back together. It's always better to move these together as opposed to separately, at least for my workflow. Merge down right there. Where's the hip? There it is. So we're going to merge down and merge down. All right, so now we have everything back into one piece. So the issue is that the hip is, well, that the femur is like behind the hip, right? So what we need to do is we need to kind of rotate this a bit more, and then kind of also rotate the hip so that the leg muscles that are originating from the anterior superior iliac spine and inferior iliac spine are actually being able to be sculpted correctly, or else we're going to have sartorius coming from all types of places. Turtles are cool. 27, happy birthday. Okay. I'll take that. I'll take it. For whenever it is my birthday, I'll be like, hey, thanks, turtle. So here we go. Let's Control-Shift-Click, Control-Shift-Click, mask, put everything back. Well, actually, what do I want to do? I want to rotate the hips. So I think I'm going to grab the sacrum, the left and right hip, and also the legs, because they're going to be moving along with them, and masking it, inverting it. W, holding Alt and clicking where I want it to be. And we're going to rotate this so it's going in line with the sacrum. And we're going to rotate this. Let's just double check and make sure that we are not going to slightly rotate it as we adjust its rotation. Let's see, something like that. We can work with that. So let's Control-Shift-Click all this. Mask it manually. Bring everything back. And then we can rotate this leg down. And we can kind of fix our interpenetration of this femur and the crest of the hip. And per usual, we're getting a little bit of a stutter. You should expect those by now from this stream. For some reason, only when I use ZBrush in stream does it lag. So, we'll have to figure something out. All right, so what I want to do is kind of get this arrow facing roughly the same way that the femur is. Something like that. And then we're going to rotate it so it's below. Ooh, oh, missed one. Boom. We're going to rotate this in and make sure it's not behind the crest. And let's rotate it a bit, bring it down so it's not eating away at that socket. And let's bring everything back. Okay, so I think that is going to make much more sense. And then we can also bend the toes here and raise the knee a bit. All right, so let me show you how to do that. So if you ever have this result along the edges, that's because you had one part hidden and then you tried to subdivide. So it's going to create all these triangles here. So what I would do is press W, hold Control, and drag down the leg. And then it's going to use that topology that we have. And Then we can hold control and kind of feather it, and then rotate it into place. And it doesn't need to be exact because we barely even started sculpting this thing, but there's a big general form change I definitely want to get done there. And then we can start using our move brush and putting this into place. So let's bring this over. Bring that forward. And just making sure everything's not going through the skeleton or anything like that. Okay. And then we can move this over because we'll go over these leg muscles, but we have our vastus muscles, so we want to make sure we have enough room on each side. This is too much of a pop, so what's missing is the gluteus maximus and medius. And then the adductors aren't really being represented either. Let's try to fix this area because we don't want that going through the pelvic floor. Want this up here, smooth, smooth, smooth. And I think just due to its weird topology, kind of want to, kind of want to zero mesh it, but then it's not really going to help. All right, so we're just going to make sure that this is all on the outside. We'll just work with what we got, right? So these adductors, I want their trajectory going towards these sitting bones right here. Okay, so right there is where these are going to connect. So kind of want to have our adductors represented right there. Going to smooth, 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 smooth. And whenever we bend down and do something like this, the curve is up here. It's not all the way back behind our femur. So we also kind of got to solve this as well. So I'm going to bring this curve up to the front as much as possible. And then kind of smooth it away. And let's, come on now. Getting my form soft brush and just making sure this mesh is over. Yeah, because we need to bring everything up here. And just making sure everything's outside the skeleton. Let's just start sketching in the rectus femoris. And again, there we go. And again, we got to make sure that this curve is behind the knee, not in front of it. Come on, come on, come on. Don't tell me it's gotten worse with 2020. That's not good. Alrighty. So we're going to make sure it's right here around the knee joint. Going to make sure our gastrocnemius is kind of blocked in and smooth that out so we don't have noodle knees. And let's just bring this here and continue on ensuring we aren't breaking any fundamental anatomical rules. Alrighty. Knee, femur. All right, so upper leg bone is the femur. We want to, Jesus, let me get this skeleton kind of only want bits. There we go. Okay, now we can go back to the leg. There we go. Alrighty. So here are our sitting bones. This is what we sit on, hence the name. I'm going to press Control Shift X and kind of grow this selection out just a little bit. See if we can ease that wrinkle that we have here. Okay. Smooth, smooth, smooth. And let's make sure we have this going correctly. So we're going to have our adductors, which is, you know, the inside of the thigh. We're going to make sure that none of this mesh is going through this hip bone. Bring everything back, kind of smooth it out, because that was a big change. You can see right there. Yeah, this mesh is really, really messed up. Really, really messed up. Let me go smooth, stronger. Let's go brush. Smooth, where is it? Smooth, stronger. Skip. And let's turn off the light box. There we go. Alrighty. And let's bring it forward. Here we go. And let's make sure this isn't going through the leg. All right, so we are going to add a bit of fibro fatty tissue around the heel. Bring this over. Make sure we don't have, what are those called? Bunions? Is that what they're called? Something like that. And just kind of roughly place these. We'll talk about the feet next week for sure. For right now, I just don't want stuff poking through the mesh too badly. Now, excuse the dogs if you do hear them. They're not mine, first of all. Okay, they're not mine. I can't do anything about it, so don't ask. But they love to bark at anything. Anything. Alrighty. So, we're going to put in the... Let's see if we can block anything else out before we start getting into the actual muscles. I think we can... We have to figure out what is going on with the Streamlabs. Because it's really the only thing that's changing is the Streamlabs. Because whenever I'm sculpting regularly, it's fine. Okay, so we're gonna put in this oblique a little bit more. Right there, smooth. Make sure it's all the way forward. That we don't just sculpt it in one area, but we carry it through. And let's see. Okay, gluteus medius. Coming down here. Gluteus maximus attaching to the posterior iliac spine and your sacrum. Here. And then going into your greater trochanter and also into your iliotibial tract band, which, and then we can also put in the tensor fascia latae right here, which is this small muscle that allows you to abduct your, that helps you abduct your leg out. And that attaches to the iliotibial tract, which originates from the ilium and comes down and kind of straps down your vastus lateralis, which is, you know, your outer thigh, and that's going to originate from here. All right, boom, 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 and smooth, smooth. Okay. Your adductors right here attaching to your sitting bones. Bring that down. Make sure we move that shape over. And let's kind of hit that stomach again. For those just joining the stream, this is student work and kind of going over it and helping them understand the sculpting aspect of this, because it is a pretty complicated pose to attempt, like on your first ZBrush sculpt. But that's the reason I'm doing these videos, so that they have something to follow and learn from, and they're not just, you know, in the weeds about it. All right, so patella or your kneecap, patella ligament going down to your sitting bone. We've got your tibialis anterior. I see this muscle being sculpted incorrectly, like 100% more than any other one, because there's really, for some reason, there's no consistent forms being represented here. So this is your tibialis anterior. It's originating right under the head of your tibialis, which is your main shin bone. And there's an egg right here. And then that's all you gotta do. And then you just bring it over. And then it's just going to disappear into your ankle at that point. Okay. And then it's going to give you this three-dimensionality to your knee, because your knee is only right here, and then it's housed on each side by a bunch of tendons and muscles and fat and all that. So we're going to bring this over here, make sure the trajectory is going towards the greater trochanter, and we want to ensure that we have two forms. We want to have the vastus lateralis, which is our outside leg, and we got to have our biceps femoris, or the left side of your hamstring, right here. And that's going to originate behind your glutes and actually attach to your sitting bones. So the trajectory should be something like that. Roughly, we're going to represent it as one shape, your biceps femoris, which is on the lateral side of your leg, and the semitendinosus, which is on the inside of your leg, which is attaching right to the medial head of your tibialis right here. And I'm just going to make sure that this patellar ligament is going straight. Well, not straight, but roughly straight, because we're going to have a bunch of fat around here. Not a bunch, just a little. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of shape this calf on the left. I'm going to polygroup it and then kick it like that. And for this, I think I'm just going to go solo. So the gastrocnemius, or your calf, right now we can take a look down the middle and we can just see that it needs a whole lot more form, right? So let's just start off with that. So boom, 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 boom. And on the side, you should have an oblique angle from your lateral going down to your medial. You rarely want these angles to line up horizontally with each other, because then you get that cartoon chicken leg look, and that's something that's something you're going for. If that's your style, it's my style. Chicken legs are my style. Then if you want to avoid that, just make sure that they're at an oblique angle going this way, up, 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 up. Okay. All right, so we have our gastrocnemius. It is originating from, let's go to our skeleton. It's originating from the epicondyles of our femur right here. So it's coming out like that. So we kind of need a little bit better trajectory on this, a little bit taller up here. And I'm just sculpting it in neutral pose, and then whenever we bring the rest of the leg back, we'll have them interacting with each other. Okay. And down. And over. Okay. Bring that over, and let's make sure. We'll go over. I just don't want to. We'll go over feet on another day specifically, so that y'all can make sure y'all are getting that, or at least maybe get a little bit more understanding of what's happening around that area. Okay. So since it is resting, or these the upper leg and this gastrocnemius are interacting with each other, I'm going to widen it out a little bit. And then I'm going to definitely indicate the Achilles tendon, which is attaching directly to the inferior sides of the gastrocnemius right here. And let's move this over because it's kind of shifted over to the right. And have it go straight down to the heel. And boom, boom, boom. Bring this down right there. Let's see, what else can we do? Make sure that anterior tibialis is coming out a little bit. And then remember, it's wrapping around, so let's kind of get that feeling. That's kind of probably what's the issue here. I'm going to go down in subdivision level so I can get a more, so I can get form, or major forms first before I start getting into any detail or provide any lumpiness. So I prefer to get my major shapes in this low poly version. Alrighty, so it's a little bit better. Okay, so let's grab this leg and let's kind of sculpt this out as well. So as you can see, it's got a little bit of a curve here. I'm going to move this over. Actually, right around there. I'm going to give this kind of hump for the, whatchamacallit? For our gastrocnemius and, or I'm sorry, our semitendinosus in our biceps femoris, or the hamstrings right here. Get that, have that go into there. And we want the feeling of this vastus lateralis to go into our great trochanter right here. Because we don't want it to just keep going all the way to the or the glutes, right? Have this go. And I want the trajectory of the biceps, or I'm sorry, the rectus femoris going to the anterior inferior. So I kind of want, I don't want this to go up towards the hip. I want it to go down here, right there. Next, I'm going to get the sartorius. I'm going to hit that a little bit. It's not going to be, well, it might be activated for stability reasons. But that's going to also attach here to the head of the tibialis on the medial side. Right there. And then the tensor fascia latae is going to go, it's going to kind of squiggle because we're bent. And it's also not attached directly to a bone. It's attached to a tendon. So that tendon is going to be manipulated, and the insertion point will also manipulate along with that tendon. A little bit more here, because we have our sartorius coming out right there. We have our tensor fascia latae, and in between we have our rectus femoris going down to our, going towards our knee or our patella. Right there. And so let's add a little bit more directionality here from the patella towards the rectus femoris. Make sure we're really selling that. Okay. So now what we need to do is we need to put in our vastus medialis, which is the inner, this muscle on the inside of your thigh. And that's going to be attaching all along the femur. So we definitely want to make sure that we have that represented. This also goes down to this is the very crest of it, so you can safely bring that vastus medialis to the head of the patella, but you don't want to go too far beyond that, because then it's going to look too long. All right, and our vastus lateralis on the outside, that needs to end also kind of like the calf. Needs to end at a oblique angle from the end of our vastus medialis going out here, right? So we're just going to mark all this in, and I don't want to say I'm not concerned with the overall form, but I'm kind of doing both at the same time, getting the trajectory right, getting the insertions and originations, and I'm not being a stickler for every single form. I'm just working it through as I go along. Okay. So we can smooth that, we can smooth this, and we also have this semitendinosus attaching to the head of our tibia, And I'm just going to add this concavity that we have on the medial side of our tibialis. And whenever we have our knee bent this much, we're really going to see this head of the tibialis because there's not a lot of meat here. It's just bone and tendon. So we need to kind of indicate the heads of that tibialis right there. And this is your fibula right here. And this is where your biceps femoris, or the lateral side of your hamstring, attaches to. And this is also a very huge landmark for the, I think it's, I don't want to say it's extensor digitorum. It's the peroneus longus, I think is what it is. But it originates here at the head of your fibula, comes down and around your ankle, and attaches right there on the side. Okay, and that allows you to pull your foot in that direction. Okay, and let's turn off transparency a bit. And it's not just a line, you know, we're not just marking things in. We need to actually give form to these boundaries. For me, and my the way I sculpt is that I get real aggressive with it, and then I smooth it out, and then go back and forth, back and forth. You might have a much more efficient version, or maybe you like fiddling like I do with the way that these feel. So, you know, it's up to you what you want to do, how you do it, as long as you get it done. And then we're going to have the soleus, which a lot of people confuse for the calf, but it's kind of like a implant underneath the gastrocnemius, or our calf. So I'm going to kind of mark this in a little harshly. Smooth that out. And then we have the soleus going all the way down and kind of ending right there. Kind of disappearing into our Achilles tendon right around here. And let me get is my phone on me? Yeah. So if you don't have this app, it's extremely useful. Again, it's a Scott Eaton app. It's called MD3D. I think it's on all Apple and Android, but it's like $5. It's really, really, really useful. But you can go through pretty much all the muscles that you need. Okay. Yeah, it was a polaris longus. Yeah, so I did get it right. Awesome. Okay, so this peroneus longus is going to be right around here. So, dang it, come on now. Come on, fingers. Get that. It's going to have a little bit more of a form. And again, it's going around the ankle. So let's kind of get that ankle and make sure we're digging around it, because it should be protruding out. Shouldn't be hidden. And then we have the fibrofatty tissue surrounding the heel. Let's see. Okay, so we got that. We got extensor digitorum longus, which is going up here. And this allows you to wiggle your feet, or your toes, sorry. So if you want to wiggle your toes, you'll feel this muscle right here activating and deactivating for every digit that you're moving. And let's get the soleus coming from here and going down a little bit more gastrocnemius. Okay, so we can kind of smooth some things out. Probably not. Let's switch back to our regular smooth. BS. Okay, and just gonna start tapping around and taming some of these muscles back. But yeah, I think that's slightly believable. And how long have we been doing this? What, like 30 minutes? We already got a leg blocked out anatomically. I mean, what do you want on this stream? Why are you not subscribed or following right now? Just ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Alrighty. So indicate that hip a little bit more so we don't lose it. And let's dig in right there a little bit more. Kind of smooth this on over. And let's hit up that tibialis a little bit more deliberately. Because I kind of want it to be a bit more hard surface feeling. And then we can bring this tibialis over. And this is going to attach right there on the inside of your foot. And bring that down. Okay. I think that's good. Okay, so let's do the other one. This one should be a bit easier. So I'm going to hold control. I'm going to drag down the leg. I'm going to hold control again and feather the selection and then rotate it up a little bit. And, whew. What's up with this leg right here, Shisher? All right, we're going to go here. We're going to rotate that back. And let's go back to smooth, stronger. Smooth, stronger. Okay. Holding control again, dragging down the leg. And I kind of just want to make a general movement instead of fiddling with it. Alrighty, so let's grab this leg. Let's split it. Let's go B. Let's choose mask lasso. And boom. Press Control W, click that. And let's go here and get rid of this. And that way we're less distracted or influenced by, because your brush does take into account everything that's on the screen. So it's just easier to get rid of everything that you're not looking at the moment or working on at the moment. Rider skunk. I know it's so bad. It's so horrible. It's okay. We'll make it look better. Alrighty, so just getting overall forms. First thing I'm going to do is just double check that we won't have the leg eating itself, like right here. Smooth, make sure it's not too lumpy. And I'm just holding Alt and using the move brush to make the mesh come towards me. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Bring that out. Bring that back. What'd that say? That said something. I don't like the way it looked. All right, so we're just going to make sure that curve is behind the knee, not in front of it. And so we got that. Let me double check. I think this might be out of socket. So I'm gonna hold. I'm gonna solo it. I'm gonna hold press W, hold control, and I'm gonna mask that. And I'm gonna put this right here. Rotate it a little bit so we make sure it's in line. I think looks way better. All right, I'm gonna rotate it a little bit more. And we're gonna spread it out just a little bit. And grab that mask. Whoa, 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 whoa. All right, gonna hold Alt while I mask, and then it's just gonna mask everything but that. And I want to make sure that this kneecap is at the same distance from the sitting bone that we can get. Remember, we have a fat behind the patella. So something like that. And then we have the patella ligament that doesn't move or stretch. And then we have the patella tendon that attaches to the rectus femoris that does stretch. Right? So I think that should be good. Okay. So let's bring this back. I'm going to mask that, Control W, Control Shift, and we're just going to block out the upper leg. I find whenever you're trying to alter or kind of like, re-sculpt a lot, it's easier to go in sections and kind of get it going that way instead of being faced with everything that you have to do all at once. And since we have a skeleton here, it's pretty easy to work piece by piece because we know where everything's coming from and going to. And let's bring everything back. Just kind of smooth all this out. And I'm going to just smooth this section out, see what's happening. Okay, so let's invert it and let's smooth the yellow part. Amos's Jedi, hola, hello. Rider Skunk, is that you? Is that you? All right, let's kind of. Trying to understand. I think it is. There we go. Okay, that was what it was. All right, and again, we just want to make sure that none of this is going through the skin. And smooth, smooth, smooth. And I think that'll work for right now. All right, a little bumpy booty. Okay. So, let's bring it back. Okay, so the gluteus maximus attaches to the posterior iliac spine. Turn transparency on, but take this off. And this is pretty much going into the great trochanter up here and also attaching to the sacrum. Right? And we have the great trochanter right there. So, you know, you can build all this up because it needs to go into the great trochanter. And I'm not trying to make it bigger as in wider or larger. I'm trying to create those curves more intense. And again, from the posterior iliac spine, we have the gluteus maximus, and it's also attaching to the sacrum right here. And let's take a look, because this pose for some reason keeps confusing me. So I gotta keep, yeah, okay. All right, so this goes boom, 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 right here, right in there. Okay. So around, and let's make sure, because we don't, since the glutes are being stretched, I don't really want them to look too bootylicious. So this can go right in there, and then we are going to get the vastus medialis. And remember, it's got to have the feeling that's going into the great trochanter. So I want to have the meat all around. Remember, we have the iliotibial tract holding all this down. And then we have the, from this side, what I want to do is kind of want to move all this over. So this is a little bit more in center. And let me get that. Get that down. Okay. So now the rectus femoris needs to have the impression that it's coming from here. So, oops, let's get our brush. And we want the rectus femoris pretty much going straight down the femur. And then we want our vastus lateralis to surround this area. And the very bottom of it is going to reach the very top of our patella. So we want to make sure that we don't go below that. And it's going to be attaching to our, directly to our femur. And then we want our sartorius to originate. Let me get rid of this. Go down. Let me grow the selection. Hold on. Grow the selection. Kind of smooth it out. All right. So we want the sartorius. Let me get a little bit more. And we're going to have to sculpt this up so it's a little bit more flat. Okay. And we want this to attach to the head of our tibia. So we're going to go from the iliac crest, anterior superior, and come around the vastus medialis, right? We don't want to go over it. We want to go around it. And then attach to the head of our tibia. Our adductors are going to originate from our sitting bones. So and those are going to attach directly to the femur. So we got to make sure that the trajectory of it is going towards the femur. And then we have the biceps or semitendinosus and biceps femoris originating from the sitting bones as well. So here, so we need to add a little bit more because we generally sculpt the hamstring as one form. And then it splits off as it gets behind our femur right here. So it's going to come around. Let me show you what that means. So we have this attaching to the head of our fibula. So that's going to be right here. Smooth, smooth, smooth. And it's going to attach right there. And then the vastus lateralis will be a separate form on top of that. So we should see a plane change as it gets to the hamstrings. Alrighty. And rectus femoris. Tensor fascia latae. Remember, it's going to spindle out because it's attaching to the iliotibial tract band. Right, originates from here and is going to go down your vastus lateralis and then attach to the head of your tibialis. And sternal transparency. And for the upper thigh, I think that's not great, but it's also not too bad. Yeah, and this topology, oof. It's definitely not fun. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Smooth, smooth. Okay. Transparency. Let's go around and into our vastus lateralis. So it should kind of disappear into there. Oh, okay. So, and now let's get this calf. Let's go. Yeah, we can keep this smooth, smooth, smooth. And let's get this roughly where it needs to be. Okay. So first things first, we get the overall form or the silhouette. So you can see it from here. This obviously isn't the shape of a calf, right? So if you have the new 2020 version, you have the silhouette up here now, which is, I can only imagine is going to be very, very helpful in the future. I'm going to use inflate brush just so I can kind of get an overall general mass. So I'm not moving it too much and just using my smooth brush to get those forms. Yeah. Something like that. Let's use our move brush, kind of just silhouette this around. And don't forget, tonight, Rick and Morty episode 2, season 72? Something like that. Alrighty, smooth, smooth, smooth. And we're gonna smooth, smooth, smooth. So this is where all the meat and this is where most of the tendon is, right? So we kind of want to represent that as well in our sculpture. So most of the form or bulkiness will be up top, and then as it becomes tendon, it'll be way less bulky. And making sure that Achilles tendon isn't breaking any laws. And moving this around, hopefully it's going to make things a little easier for us. Or not, doesn't matter. We're going to get it done. All right, so let's get this patella. Boom, 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 boom. Patella, patella, patella. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's get that. Patella, patella, patella. And let's start digging in this tibialis, because it should be quite close around here. And then we're going to have the tibialis anterior, which is originating from right under the head of the tibialis and coming around. Most of the meat up top, going around. All right, and then we have the peroneus longus, which is originating at the head or the styloid process of the fibula, and creating a form, most of it up here, and then becomes tendon. And just make sure if you're going to continue sculpting it, that goes around the ankle, not over it, not in front of it. And so there's our ankle, and this goes around it and attaches right there on the side of our foot. Fibrofatty tissue all around the heel, giving us that flat look or that flat plane on our heel. Okay, smooth that out. Let's go back here and let's sculpt in this gastrocnemius. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so it should be coming from this epicondyle right here, and it's coming around, and then another one coming from this epicondyle of the femur and around. We should have an oblique angle to the bottom of our calves, coming from inferior medial to superior lateral. And bring that over. So let me break that down. So from medial, meaning inner, inferior, meaning lower, to superior lateral, meaning to the outside and higher. Okay? You don't want to talk all this jargon. You're all like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? I just came here to learn how to sculpt a leg. You know, I understand. I understand the frustration of ignorance, you know, trust me. All right. And getting that, getting this, making sure it stops right there. So we got the fibrofatty tissue, gastrocnemius coming around right here. Let's dig this in and have it go to our Achilles heel that goes directly to the heel of our foot. And again, we're not going to have this come around the tibialis, right? That's not what the calf does. It comes from here, from the back of the epicondyle, and comes around and goes down. Okay? Leaving room for this peroneus longus to exist. Because I see lots of people just putting the calf all the way, like halfway down the leg. And trust me, you are an example in my class, for sure, on how not to sculpt a leg. Alrighty. So we want to bring this closer to the tibialis, right here. Boom, boom, boom. Boom, 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 boom. Boom, boom. Smooth, smooth, smooth. Da, da, da. Okay. And so what we need from here, we have the gastrocnemius coming around and down, and then we have the soleus coming around and disappearing into the Achilles heel. Calf, soleus, and we are going to add a bit more form to the bottom of this leg because it's just looking a little bit too thin as it gets to the ankle. Looks very flimsy. So we're going to dig around this ankle right there. Make sure it's protruding out. And we should have right here, it should be mostly bone poking through. And then it's surrounded by muscle on each side. So there we go. Tibialis anterior. Let's turn transparency off and just take a look at it. It's getting hot in here. Woo! Alrighty. Let's get rid of that. And let's add a bit more. You see how flat this rectus femoris is? Although it is being stretched, it still needs a bit more. A bit more to the peak of it. That in there. Okay, let's move this over. Move that up. Smooth, smooth, smooth. And the tibialis anterior isn't really being as represented as I would like, so I'm gonna switch to a regular smooth. And try to subtly bring this in. And again, whenever we have our knee this bent, we kind of want to hint at the heads of the tibia. So boom, 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 boom. Okay, and we're going to have this patella ligament going down to our sitting bone, or kneeling bone, sorry. So right there. And let's flatten that out. Boom, 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 boom. And make sure we get that vastus medialis. Okay. Turn off transparency. Let's smooth that new sculpting bit. So now you can see how we have a whole lot more believability by just adding in that patella ligament in there. Alrighty. It's getting hot in here, people. It's getting too hot to wear the gi. Oh, you want to know about this shirt? You can get BrettBriley.com. All right, we hung out last night. It's no biggie. I just got this shirt. Whew, man, it's super hot. Okay, so yeah, I think that's pretty good for, what is that? Yeah, an hour long sculpting sesh. We knocked in the patella, all the legs of the muscle that matter to us sculpturally. I'm gonna add a little bit more here. All right, what's up, B-Bry? I'm telling you, man, this shirt's never looked so good, brother. I mean, look at it, brother. Look at it. Look at it. All right. But we hit the patella. We hit the muscles of the leg. We've hit the lower leg, upper leg, and yeah. I think that's a good review for sure. I'm gonna go take a break, but when I get back, let's head over to the front desk real quick. All right, so if you want to join the ZBHO Dojo, make sure you do like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. All right, make sure to subscribe to Spark B. Briley as well, and Leo David as well. He's I forgot what his name is on Twitch, but yeah, make sure you follow those two jabronis. They definitely are going to have a lot of good stuff coming. But when we come back from the break, we are going to be working on Batman 66, or we might be working on Panthro Bruce Lee version. I don't know. I don't know what y'all want to do, but we'll think of something. So again, let us bow to the masters. Frank Frazetta, St. Joseph, St. Paul, St. Ryan, and the Archangel Raphael. Thank you for your continued inspiration, education, overall badassery. We will be back in about 15 minutes, somewhere around there. Make sure to say bye to the dog of the dojo, Princess. And yeah, we'll catch you in about 10, let's say 30 minutes. 30 minutes. I'm going to hook up with my boy Leo. We're going to do a little dual stream action. I don't know. Maybe B. Briley wants to work on. I don't know. You know, there's just heavy hitters everywhere. Heavy hitters everywhere in the dojo.